Hello and welcome to Poly-innovator. This is the episode for the yearly preview review. I like to call it a pre-review, if you will. Basically, in the Supra layer of the PolyInnovation operating system, there is this template I have in there in order to just reflect on the year prior and plan for the year ahead.
Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator.
And so, in doing so, last year I actually kind of just skipped over it. I did my part of it, but I didn't make a video on it. And now that I have the template almost ready to release to the world for the whole system, I wanted to go over what I did this year for my review. And this is kind of like an extension of the Now page updates. It's kind of like the yearly version of each month. And then on top of that too, I can use this as a template for people to follow along when it comes to their yearly review. So here we go. All right. So this is just a basic template. I'm going to show you what's really great about Notion is that you can have a template for each year. So you can see right here, I have these various different templates here. There's only one actually technically in this one, but you can have as many templates as you want. I have this built into the Notion PIOS. You click this, automatically loads in the whole entire page. So something I've seen across the board when it comes to a lot of these different kind of yearly reviews is finding the moment to take some gratitude on what you did, what you were grateful for this year. And then what's a little bit more unique about mine is I try to focus more on the quarterly parts as well, because that way throughout each quarter you can come in and reflect on that quarter. You really want to be doing it every 3 months or so, not just at the end of the year. I didn't really make this template the way it is until the end of the year or so, and so I actually wasn't able to go in and do the quarterly review just yet, but I try to think back on what I was thinking during that time. So let's check out one of these quarters real quick before we move on. If you just drop this down, it brings in this little area here. I actually had these as their own drop downs, but that just got a little too cluttered. So each one is just a little paragraph you write. So the 4 pillars, the mind, body, spirit, and emotions pillars. These are the major areas of your life. I'm not going to get into those very much because you can see that when you get to that layer as well later on. Also, I have a ton of content around the 4 pillars, but essentially you're talking about what aspects of your body was going on. Did you have a health problem? Did you go to the gym more often this quarter? That kind of thing. Mind, did you learn something new? Did you apply your mental prowess to something great? That kind of thing. Emotions, like during the summer, I had some emotional ups and downs. That was something I needed to take account for when I did my quarter 3 review. And then the next part is the modular degree. Did you do any self-learning? What did you learn this time of year? And that way you can go back if you ever were like thinking, okay, I learned podcasting at the beginning of the year, but I don't remember if that was the first quarter or the second quarter. Well, you can go back to your review, look at which quarter you wrote down what you learned, and then you can go into your modular degree and look for the dates. And that way you can kind of narrow things down without having to remember, oh yeah, I did it in February or I did it in June or whatever, right? You can have it more documented that way. That'll help you in the future when you're trying to look back. Next is the habit check. Now, personally, I'm not really great at the habit checks myself, but I was hoping that maybe I could link into a database where the habits are, or this is more for the writing portion, you putting into your mental prowess, like, hey, what did I do for my habits this quarter? So you're just holding yourself accountable. Did you do your habits? It's kind of pretty simple there. Personal brand. Now, not everyone's going to have a personal brand, and so you might delete that part. But I honestly do think everyone should have this section there. That's my personal opinion, because even if you're not straight up going into personal branding like I do, right? You are still presenting yourself online. You still have a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile, something online that is you in a digital format. That is your personal brand. Even if it's just a personal page that you're just sharing with friends and family, that's still your brand of yourself that you're presenting to the world on this digital medium. And so even if you're not a content creator, technically speaking, like you're not actively making podcasts or videos or blog posts, you're still creating posts or sharing updates or updating your profile. Like you're still technically a personal brand. And so I always like to keep this here, like checking yourself, like, hey, did you expand your personal brand this year? Did you make a new profile? Did you try out a new social platform? This is a good spot for that section. Content and bullet journal. Now, the content is more public facing and bullet journal is more personal facing. And so depending on where you're at, whether or not you're creating content or you're just doing a journal yourself, let's say you're learning something in a modular degree, you wrote down a journal entry based on what you learned, right? I always talk about when you learn something in this modular degree, you should create something from it so that way you have a way to concrete and distill that information that you learned. And so by writing about it, it allows you to kind of reformat those ideas into more your own lines of thinking, and the bullet journal or content is the way to do that. So we'll move on from here. We have one for each quarter. They're all basically the same template there. Ikigai check. So part of the 4 pillars is also the Ikigai alignment. And so basically this is just a checklist, and you have to be really honest with yourself. You can't just check it for the sake of checking it. It's not a completion thing. It's more of like I said, an alignment thing. Are you doing what you love? Well, some people aren't. Some people are doing a job because they have to, right? Are you doing what you're good at, right? Are you doing what your skills that you have leveled up can do? Are you doing something that the world needs? This is something that's kind of hard. People think like, yeah, my job's pretty important. No, you're just doing some kind of accounting job in a big corporation that would fire you in an instant, right? That's not what the world needs. What the world needs is something that can actually improve the life of many people, right? Not to say accountants are important. I'm just saying as an example. Are you getting paid? Now that's a pretty yes or no kind of thing. Technically, I'm not right now, right? I'm barely making the income that I should be doing when considering how much I'm providing value to others, right? But my clients always take care of me when I like ask for something like that, like, hey, can you buy me a tea or something like that? They'll always do that. Now, getting out of the comfort zone. Are you doing things to expand your horizons? I just give 3 examples there. And that's out of the whole year, right? I just wanted to make sure I had a little section for that. It's not too crucial, but it's still pretty important for you to keep growing. How well did I accomplish my goals and projects? Now, when it comes to the databases here, I'm not sure how I want to do that because we do have it down here, and that links into the database. And I'll show you one on my filled out one what it looks like when it comes to something already being on there. This is just a sample goal. But how well did I accomplish my goals and projects? Well, in this section here, you're at least going to write it, like how well you did. Like, did you actually set out some things? Because some people don't even make goals, let alone achieve them or set out to achieve them. So planning and manifestation for the future. This is more of a review part. This is more of the planning part. I used to have these as 2 separate templates, but that gets too convoluted, so I combined them. So in here, you write out your goals, what you want to plan for the future. Now, you may have goals from the last year, and you can keep those there, or you can replace them. That's up to you. Usually, if you have goals from the last year, they kind of carry over to the next year, and you want to try to have just 3. So just try to narrow things down to 3 goals you can accomplish this year. What are projects that need to get done? The next step up from goals or projects. Within projects, you have goals and tasks, right? What tasks do you need to accomplish the goals? That overarching progress towards that project. So these are the projects that I'm working on right here. Personal training clients, obviously. I have my clients I have to take care of. Some Notion templates because I needed to get the module degree out. I got that out. Now I need to get the PIOS out and the content production system template. And so I got the mod degree system, which is kind of separate from the Notion template. But again, this is just linked to my database. So this is what you would see in my database. And in what phase of PolyInnovator are you in? Now, since I'm no longer technically in this phase, but it's still technically active until I feel a little bit more confidence in putting that off on the side burner. But on here, you can literally just click through. I'm not going to show the list of all my phases because that's still technically secret. And so when it comes to what I'm planning on doing this next year or next decade, that's a phase, basically, and what I'm focusing on at that time period. All right, so what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for my family this year. I know I've had some ups and downs with some family members, but I'm grateful to have family that are still alive and still relatively healthy, and spending time with loved ones is the point of holidays, for example. I am grateful for my roommate, too. He's been very supportive over the past, multiple years, let alone last year, when I had a lot of stuff going on, like different jobs going up and down, different relationships going up and down, and he'd been there through all of that. Now, like I said, since I wasn't able to do this each quarter, I wrote it all at the end, which means I still kind of had to remember what was going on. And each one has its own just different takes. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of these per se, but I definitely had a more interesting take on exercise, for example, where multiple times throughout the year I was focusing really well. Other times of the year I wasn't so much. So my body's gone through a lot of changes when it comes to the physique. I feel more powerful, but I also feel more sore and achy. Part of that's the cold, part of that's also just getting older. I'm only in my 20s, but it's the late 20s. And so learning that I need to stretch more, learning that I need to keep my calisthenics up too, keep that consistency. Whereas this year I focused more on doing heavier weight and making progress in that regard. Like I think I've been making some decent progress that way. But I also need to account for the other pillars. I'm not meditating as much. I haven't been learning as much this year. I can't say I haven't because I spent a lot of time learning about like NFTs or chat GPT or exercise still again, podcasting again. But yeah, getting out of the comfort zone. So I try what I want to plan for next year, I guess, is what I don't know why I misunderstood that. I see, here's an example here. I put this section here to review what I did this past year to get out of my comfort zone. What I did here was plan out what I'm going to do this coming year. So, I mean, you can take it how you want it. Go to 3 new bar locations because I'm tired of karaoke and I want to try out different vibes. Someone's walking through outside. Travel to another state to explore a new city and start live streaming. So I've only live streamed a couple times, and I think a couple of those, like 2 out of 4 times, didn't even work. Now, while I made a lot of progress in a lot of areas, I spent the entire year pursuing just 30 posts essentially. And it was very frustrating how I didn't get that done. I was able to finish off my interviews. I got them all released. I knew I would, but I was just happy that I got it done. And like a lot of people might have been worried that I might have been able to get it done just because it was taking so long. I had no doubt. I was just going to keep working at it. I was going to keep chipping it away. And that's what happened with those posts too. That was like my main goal this year, ironically. And I wanted to get it done in Q1, but I didn't get it all done until Q4. Very frustrating. I'm very behind because of that. But I also didn't want the quality to suffer by rushing it. Now, what's the theme for next year? Polyphasic. So I talked about that one to show some of my phases, but here is the phases that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to go big then small. So still need to finish off the modular education phase. And what that entails is I got the modular template out, but I still need to make some content around that. And there's a lot of Omni content posts coming up probably as well based around that. I also need to focus on the poly innovation system as a whole, which although isn't part of that phase, technically that phase is part of the PIOS. So it's kind of linked in that regard. And so by making courses for the 4 pillars or the modular degree, that's part of that phase. That's why it's still active. So it's almost like I'm finishing up that phase for now. Now, when I say finish, technically phases don't actually finish. You can say finished, but you're probably going to go back to it at some point in the future and you reactivate it. The podcast interviews, I've been wanting to do them all year. I've only had one done this entire year. And Renata, thank you for doing that because I enjoyed having you on the show. But I needed to have more people. I wanted to get a couple more people so I can get to the 100th episode. And on the 100th episode, I was going to have Dale Brockton back in order to do the secondary series where I have guests returning. So that was kind of the plan too. Also, throughout the entire year, I wanted to focus on getting some of that content repurposed. All those interviews still need a blog post, still need clips to be made, and yet I haven't gotten around to that yet. I've been playing around with the repurposing tools, and now with the content repurposing phase, I can actually use those tools to do that part as well. And then PolyInnovator Gaming. So I said I want to live stream. This seems like a lot, but considering that the phase 1 is on the way out, phase 2 is kind of just interspersed. It's one of those things where interviews are going to happen when they're going to happen. I'm not going to make them too consistent. I want to be, but I can't. I just can't really get them going that fast. And then PolyInnovator Gaming is already something I'm doing anyways, and so it's just kind of along the waves. So in actuality, oh man, I'm missing a phase. I'm missing the exercise swimming phase, but honestly, that's just the weekly content. And then I'll work on the book when it comes out early on this year. About late Q1, early Q2 or so. Well, around May is what I was planning on at least. But so there's a lot of things going on, and I think a lot of people are going to call me out on it being too much, but it really isn't. It's a little bit of everything. Normally, I would focus on one big one and a couple small ones, but what I really need to do is just do minor progress this year on each of these, so that way the next year I can focus on one and really go ham on that one. Because I kind of have to play catch up with all of them, or else it's not going to really work. Project-wise, once again, it's kind of the same. I probably need to work on this again once I finish the recording, add more projects to plan out this year to get done. Like the book, for example, I need to add that as a project. And then my goals. This is what I did work on. This is from last year. Get 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I didn't get that close, but I'm a fourth of the way there. I did get a decent amount of subscribers, and I'm happy about that. I also would like to get 1,000 people on my blog subscriptions if you want to come join. So it's free. And then post 5 TikTok shorts and reels of gaming content a day for about, 60 days? Yeah, 45 days. And that's just because I have a lot of gaming content. I want to jumpstart my gaming channel. and then release the PIOS template early on in the year, which is what I'm trying to work on now. Other than that, there really isn't much more to say. It's a pretty simple template. I think there's also other people out there, Ali Abdal, August Bradley, they all have their own version of this. And so if you wanted to delete mine and put theirs in, you can. I just wanted to give you something that you could actually use that's a little bit more simple. Some of theirs just had so much going on that I was like, I don't want to do all that. Even doing all this still kind of got me a little bit lazy, which is why I skipped it last year. It wasn't until I refined it at the end of this year, past year, that I was able to finally get myself to do it. So this is the refined version. I might make a few tweaks here and there, but for the most part, this is what you'll get. This is what you'll get, and I think this is a great way to get yourself started on just doing this kind of yearly layer, because some people are going to be overwhelmed by the system, and if I have too intricate of templates in each layer, it's going to make it even more overwhelming. So if I have this kind of simple template here, you can always make it more advanced if you want to. And then same philosophy goes for each of the other templates. Minus the modular creator content repurposing templates. Those are pretty advanced, but everything else is pretty much simplified. All right, cheers. I hope you like it. And yeah, have a good day. Please check out the PIOS.